3 o'clock in the morning, the phone rang. It was the community in Guayaquil, and they told us that there had been a really big earthquake, that the school building in Playa Prieta had collapsed with the sisters inside. The first thing that came to my mind was, I have to wake up all the sisters to pray.
The next day, we first received news that they were all out.
But later, in another phone call, we were told that not all of the sisters were out, but only 3 sisters and 2 girls, and that 5 girls and Sister Clare were still missing.
When I heard that she was the only one missing, I said, they're not going to find her alive. Because you could tell that she was already prepared, that her heart was no longer attached to the things down here. She was way above all this.
So many memories come to mind. When she first arrived to the community, her novitiate, her first vows, her time in the different communities. There are so many memories that come to mind.
Ever since I met Sister Clare, I was always impressed by how clearly she would hear the voice of God speaking in her heart, in her soul, and also by how quickly and with what generosity she responded to him.
She couldn't do things halfway. When she did something, she did it to the best of her ability, with all of her strength, keeping nothing back for herself.
When I saw Sister Clare do things, she really was all or nothing.
My name is Sister Clare. I'm from Ireland, from a wee town called Derry. Ever since I was little, I don't know why, but I always had this desire to be famous. I studied theatre, I wrote theatre, I directed.
Clare was a drama queen, always was from the day in her she was born.
Brilliant, she got on with anybody. She could mix with anybody in the world, like just so kind and very good personality. Always had people around her, always.
She had the best personality, full of life. If you met her, you just got on with her straight away. Nothing bothered her, she just took everything in her stride.
She was so lively, bubbly, always upbeat. When she was in a class, she had a way, her presence just took over the class. Everyone enjoyed her, everyone wanted and loved to be in her company.
I'm from Catholic there, but my family aren't Catholic for religious reasons. It's for political reasons. Because in the north of Ireland, well, there's a lot of problems, Catholics against the Protestants. But they're not fighting for religious reasons. They fight politically because the Catholics want a united Ireland, and the Protestants want to be joined on the Protestants.
It's more a question of politics. I'm Irish too, same as Sister Clare. I'm a lot older than her. She was born in Derry City in the north of Ireland. I was born in Cork City in the south of Ireland. Even in my own childhood, I remember 6 or 7 years, I would have been 7 when Bloody Sunday happened, and the tension in the air, I remember that clearly. In 1980, I would have been 15, and we lived the hunger strike of the Republican Catholic prisoners looking for political status as prisoners, which was denied to them. I remember there was a lot of anger, murderous hatred that was in the air at the time. And the two centres of tension, the two great centres of tension, would have been the Falls Road in Belfast and the Bogside in Derry, which is right next to the Brandywell, which is where Sister Clare was from.
There was a lot of violence here, and you couldn't just walk down the street.
If you heard shooting, you knew that they knew to lie down on the ground. If you heard a bomb going off and it seemed to be close, their father used to go out and get them. Because he didn't know. You know, he didn't know just what would happen. And Clare seen a soldier being blew up. She's come from school. So that's the environment.
The statistics are that of sociological studies and so on, that the rates of vandalism, of illiteracy, of violence, of unemployment, of homelessness among the youths and young adults of Derry throughout that time were higher than anywhere else in Ireland or Britain. So the legacy of destruction is something that she would have lived, you know, very close up. What I find extraordinary is that she transcended all of that, if you like, just on a natural level. Just by the sheer talent, abundance of natural talent, she succeeded in opening her wings, so to speak, and surpassing all of that, escaping it.
School, everybody talked about. You know, when school shows and schools got, because she was always brilliant. She always had the lead role. But she was brilliant. She loved her acting. Like, everything was about her acting.
Oh, every day of her life was about being an actress.
It's not something that just happened. It was done her whole life. That was her. And then she was doing something in school, and there was agent was up the school and seen her. He said, would you come, you know, do my acting classes? And she went, and she got parts, you know, in films and advertisements.
At the age of 15, she had that position as a presenter on a program for young people on Channel 4, out of nothing. You know, we're not talking about nowadays, it's kind of a closed shop often. The children of famous people get to become actors and singers and so on, just kind of feeding off the legacy of those who went before them and kind of blazed the trail. But in Sister Clare's case, it was pure, natural talent and lots of it. And not only as acting, singing and comedy, she had it all. How did she walk away from all of that? That's why I mention this, because it becomes even more amazing. The fact that having escaped a difficult circumstances because of her talent, and having gotten on that inside track to fame and success and prosperity, you know, money and lots of it, and attention, that she was able to walk away from all of that.
En mi vida siempre ha sido o todo o nada, o actriz famosa o nada, o blanco y negro, ¿no? Y también se puede decir que he buscado el amor en sitios donde no lo he encontrado. He tenido novios, he tenido muchas amigas, amigos, mucho éxito en el campo del teatro, he hecho una película, presentadora y todo esto, ¿no? Pero yo sentí que no me llenaba.
In the late 1990s, the year 2000, around that time, the Home of the Mother asked could they come and speak to our youth group. I agreed instantly that the priests and sisters could come and speak to our group. As a result of that, Sister Clare was invited to go to Spain.
When I was 17, I started drinking, and I liked to party, I smoked, all that kind of stuff. And one time, one of my friends, her name was Sharon, she called me up and she said, Clare, do you want to go to Spain? Because there was this free trip to Spain. And she told me that there was going to be a group of people that were going. She said, all the people that are going to go to Spain are going to meet up in this house next week. I said that I would go, that I was going to go to Spain, and I thought we were going to go to Spain to party. That's what I thought. I thought we were going to go to a place called Ibiza. She didn't say that to me, but that's what I thought in my head. That we were going to go there, we were going to party, we were going to drink, all that kind of stuff.
A few weeks before the trip, everything was booked and arranged, and a few weeks before, my appendix perforated, helping my mommy put up curtains. Wasn't able to go, obviously, I was in recovery. So I decided, you know, one of them approached me and said, would you like anyone to go in your place? So the first person that came to mind was Clare.
She thought it was party, party, party. My mom is not here, my dad is not here.
We went to Ireland to meet with a group of people from Derry who were going to come down to our Holy Week retreat. It was during this meeting in Derry with us that she realized that it was a pilgrimage and not a tourist trip to Spain.
You opened the door and there was this group of people, and about 20, 30 people, they were 40, 50, 60 years old, all sitting here with rosaries. Are you all going to Spain? And they say, yeah, we're going to the pilgrimage. I said, you're going to what?
Let's just say she came a little reluctantly.
Now looking back in hindsight, was not a coincidence. It was definitely a God incident. This was a last-minute replacement.
In the Home of the Mother, we usually have what we call a Holy Week encounter. That year, we got together in Priego, Spain, and a small group of young girls came from Ireland. One of them was Clare Crockett, a very lively girl, very energetic. and very sure of herself.
Muy segura de sí misma.
Rambunctious, very rowdy. She loved to make others laugh, but she didn't like to think.
I looked out the window and I saw Clare Crockett there, sunbathing, and it wasn't even hot.
But I do remember how the first impression that you might have had of her, of being superficial, wasn't authentic. Rather, she was a person that truly sought the truth.
Una persona que se rendía ante la verdad. Whenever Father Raphael would speak, she was completely receptive. She was really listening.
Good Friday came, and they said, Claire, you have to go. Today's Good Friday. Our Lord died for us. You have to go. Blah, blah, blah. So I went in, and I said, fine. I sat on the back bench of the church, and they said, Claire, you have to get up and kiss the cross. You know, everybody's doing it. Get up. I said, kiss the cross. Get up, Claire, you gotta kiss the cross. So I got up because everybody else was doing it, and I remember standing in line, waiting to kiss the cross, and it didn't mean anything to me.
I went up, and as I went to kiss the feet of our Lord, I remember looking at him, and in that moment I just felt the mercy of God, and I saw that it was my sins that nailed our Lord to the cross. Now, no one had ever told me that, but looking at our Lord on the cross, I just saw that they were my sins that nailed him to the cross, and I just started crying and crying.
For my drunkenness, for my impurity, for my vanity, for everything, I seen him nailed on the cross for that these were the nails, that I nailed him to the cross. It was my fault. And seeing this and seeing the love that he had for me, that dying on the cross for me, I was like, I have to change. I can't go on loving the way I'm loving.
I went up to her and I asked her how she was doing. She looked at me and she responded, "He loves me, he died for me." Then I asked her, "Are you okay?" And she kept repeating that over and over again. So I asked her if she wanted to speak with Father Raphael, and she said yes.
We went to the sacristy, and it was then that I asked her. And right away, she said that she wanted to be a nun. I told her that to become a nun like the sisters, that she would have to come back. And she said, well, I'll come back.
But she had a problem because she also wanted to be famous, and so she said that she could be a famous nun. Later, she told everyone this.
Today we were talking about vocations, and I was thinking, oh my God, I've got a vocation, that I want to become famous. An hour ago, I want to become a nun too. So then I said to myself, I'll become a famous nun. So I don't know what to do with myself now. I could become really famous and be really rich, or I could come here and I'm praying to God that I make the right decision. Gracias.
Initially, she struggled with her two vocations, because I have to be a nun and I have to be famous, so the solution is I'm going to be a famous nun. But as she went further and further into the journey, the whole fame thing became less and less important to her, and it was totally eclipsed by the vocation to just love and to live and proclaim the truth. And that was all she cared about in the end.
She went back to Ireland, of course, when Holy Week was over, and some of the sisters said, she won't come back. But I said, yes, she'll come back.
Afterwards, she came on a pilgrimage to Rome that Father invited her to. He was very interested in her coming, and he invited her, and she came on the pilgrimage to Rome. And of course, she came with the attitude of a normal girl, superficial and fooling around. She spoke about having a vocation, and what surprised me the most was that Father Raphael took her seriously. He saw something in her and trusted her, and he really did believe that she had a vocation.
Are you camera me? Can you see me now? Can you hear this? Hola? That's all. Is that all right?
We ended up going to the home of the mother together on a pilgrimage for 3 weeks. And I feel very privileged because I was there for what I think was the light bulb moment in Clare's journey.
Santa Clara de Asís. Hoy es su santo. It's my saint's feast day today, St. Clare of Assisi. Adios.
Our Lord said to me, Claire, I want you to live like one of the sisters. I want you to live in poverty, chastity, and obedience. I think it was that moment that my eyes started twitching like that. And I said, Lord, I can't do that. I can't be poor. And I was giving them all these reasons that I could live like a sister. I couldn't do that. That it was impossible. I was going to be famous. God, did you not know I was going to be famous? But I remember our Lord saying to me, if I ask you to do this, I'll give you the strength and the grace to be able to do it.
That light bulb moment was the start of her realising that this was something within her that she really desired, that this was what her life purpose was. I remember one of the sisters telling us about how before she had became a nun, she had gone out with boys and done the whole thing. And I remember that being a great giggle between us because Claire was fond of the boys and having a wee drink as well and having a wee smoke, and it was like, oh God, I'm going to have to give all this up. I don't know if this is going to be as easy as I thought.
She came every 2 seconds, and since I didn't know English, Sister Elena came to translate. So she came smoking, and she smoked like this, and said, I'm going to become a nun, and I'm going to be a famous nun. I told her, well, yes, I think that you're going to become a famous nun, but to become a famous nun, you will have to be the most humble, and to be the most humble, you will have to learn to obey. Then she took a puff of her cigarette and said, well then, I'll obey. That was the kind of character that Sister had. You see, she had a character of totality.
And again, I said during this pilgrimage, I was like, I am changing, and I went home and I didn't change. So for a year then, I was loving this. And this year then, when I went home and I said I was going to change, this is the year that I love the worst, because this is the year where I got drunk, and so where I got drunk every Saturday or whatever, and then it turned on to getting drunk every day, and then it turned on I had to go to hospital because I got drunk. And I wanted the world, and I wanted to love my life, but God wouldn't let me. It was like, I don't want you there. I want you for me. I want you to love in poverty, chastity, and obedience. Now when I look back on it, I thought that I was happy, but I wasn't happy. And there was one night I was there and I was drinking, and I went down to the bathroom. I remember I was sitting on the cubicle thing in the bathroom.
I remember looking down because I thought I was going to be sick. I was drunk, and I felt all of a sudden that someone was looking at me. The presence that I felt was so strong that I remember looking up because I thought there was someone in the other toilet cubicle looking over at me. I remember looking up going, who was looking at me? And all of a sudden I felt strongly these words in my heart, why do you keep hurting me? I knew that our Lord was right there. He was looking at me. And I saw once again that I was crucifying our Lord with all the sins, you know, with my drunkenness, with all the mortal sins that I was committing, that I was nailing our Lord once again to the cross. Another experience that was very strong that I had was when I was doing the movie, I had to go to England to do it. Now, when you're doing a movie, you have a lady that does your makeup, you have a lady that, you know, opens the car door for you, you have another one that puts on your coat and all that. They put you up in the best hotels, they take you to the best restaurants. I had all that. At nighttime, what we would do, we'd go out with the directors and the actors, and we would go to a restaurant and we would eat and stuff. Because I had got so drunk the night before, I said, you know what, the next night I'm not going to go out, so I actually didn't. I went back to my hotel room. I remember sitting on top of my hotel bed and looking at my schedule for the next day that said, you know, the chauffeur would come and pick me up at 7:30 and all that. I remember looking at it and I just started crying and crying. And I remember crying for hours and hours and I couldn't stop.
I was thinking to myself, why am I crying? Why are you crying, Claire? You know what? You've got everything. I knew that by doing this part in the movie that I could, you know, go up this ladder of success, that I was going to get more parts. I knew that. But I felt that I had achieved everything, and at the same time I had nothing. I had nothing within me. I knew that I had to change my life. I knew that I had to cut with everything that was taking me away from God.
I knew that only doing what he told me to do and what he asked of me, that was the only way I was going to fill that hole up. That was the only way I was going to fill it up.
And so she completely cut with making films, which was the great immolation of her life. The great immolation of her life was to say, either God or the world. Since I prefer God, I don't want anything else.
Because I fell in love with God. I fell in love with Jesus Christ. I fell in love with him. Because, what can I say, that he stole my heart. And my motivation was this, to be united with God forever.
With a cigarette in this hand and a beer in the other. So guess what? I'm going to be a nun.
Shock, just in total shock with her. Because of the way she lived her life, like, you know what I mean? And I always thought that she would be and film somewhere along our line in life. Like,
we laughed it off. We thought, she's going to go there, she'll be back next week, she'll never last. We actually came up with a few things, that she was away to party and she was letting on days, or she met somebody and she was away to live in Spain. We never actually believed that she was going to be a nun.
We didn't want her to go to Spain, we wanted her here. You know, I remember saying to her, you're ruining your life.
See the day she was going out the door to go to Spain, to be a nun. I was down on my hands and knees, begging her, please don't go. Please don't go. And she said, I'm going.
I saw that our Lord called me to leave everything, and with His strength and His grace, and with the intercession and the help of our Holy Mother, I was able to do that.
Of course, you love your country, you love your family, but God is worth all of that. Even I felt that our Lord was asking me to go to Spain. But I remember saying to our Lord, why are you taking me out of my country? I can't speak the language. And my mom, she was so upset about it. You know, one day I want to be a famous actress, the next day I'm going to be a nun. She's like, what is going on with my daughter?
Hour of death too.
Sola con él solo. Y a la hora de su muerte también.
Like Jesus, she died young. And because of Jesus, we believe that a life given in loving sacrifice is never wasted.
There is a couple of troubles and stuff. There is a lot of depression in the town, and there's a lot of issues with drink and alcohol and drugs and whatever else. And for somebody to grow up in that and then become such a vibrant person.
This city needs something. It needs something that they can say, this belongs to us.
When you hear about stories about great people, you're thinking, no, they're great, I could never do what they do. But when you see someone like Clare, who grew up in the same streets as me, and no, if she can do it, why can't I do it?
And Sister Clare affected everyone in this city with so much joy, because they say every city, every town has someone of their own.
And the fact that Sister Clare actually was one of our own, people are actually saying, we actually pray to Sister Clare, and to be honest with you, I've done it myself.
You go up to the grave, every day we go up to the grave, there's something new. You don't know, you never know who's going to be at the grave.
There's a stronger relationship maybe now than there had been in the years when she was away that I hadn't seen her.
And she's sick looking at me up there asking her for stuff. Every time I'm up, I'm asking her for something. I asked her to help people and help me. Or
Clare knows that I was never a mask. Even when we were younger, I was always the first to fall asleep. She always told me I needed to go back to God.
I even started taking the Wednesday Mass, where I never went to Mass before.
She might have to drag me out some Saturday nights, but I still go. Still going to Mass now, and that's all down to her.
What has happened with the school in Playa is like a parable of what has occurred in the life of Sister Clare. The school was destroyed. It was all desolate when I was there the first time. It was a sight to see, all of the buildings in ruins. And now, after having returned and having seen how it's all been rebuilt, you can see how it's even more beautiful than before. It's a place of peace, of serenity, of beauty, and for me it was a parable of what has occurred with the lives of the sisters, how apparently their death was a destruction, and yet God has taken out of that unimaginable spiritual fruits.
We have received a lot of graces here in Playa Prieta, conversions. People are getting closer to the Lord, and we have the servant brothers here in daily Mass.
Here at the school in Playa Prieta, it's very easy to feel Sister Clare close to us, since she spent the last years of her life here. I remember her a lot, and I ask her for help, to give myself as I saw that she gave herself to the Lord.
And I asked her, like Elisha asked Elijah, give me 2/3 of your spirit. And I felt that she said to me, look at the heart of our Blessed Mother, which is what I always did. And that has helped me a lot.
I feel her very, very close to me. Above all, when I went to Playa Prieta, I felt as if she were still alive. And she has helped me a lot. If it hadn't been for her, I wouldn't have gone to Ecuador. And right now, I would have been totally lost.
This little sister who always wanted to be famous in another way is touching hearts, many more hearts after she died than she ever could while she was alive.
I can just feel her listening. Like I can't even describe it. I just know she's listening.
Life is so short, and that the way she lived it, that's how we have to live. Every day just on fire with love for Christ.
Because Sister Clare lived that way, that inspires me to live that way.
We are constantly receiving news here from people that, since they have gotten to know about the life of Sister Clare, they have become her friends, and they have taken her as a protector of their life and their family. A lot of people.
We decided to name our little girl after Sister Clare.
The death of Sister Clare is a seed planted in the ground, and it's just now showing itself.
para lo que estamos.
We are made to go to heaven, and so the fact that there are sisters that have already taken the path, and that by the mercy of God we hope are in heaven, well, for me, it's a great joy. I told the sisters that we have to be happy, because now we have a foundation in heaven. We have a community in heaven, and I jokingly said to them that I have named Sister Clare as Superior so that she can take care of the rest of her sisters.
Look at Clare Crockett, this beautiful girl from Derry, who left everything to follow Jesus and died tragically in the earthquake in Ecuador, but a girl whose life was totally transformed by her Catholic faith. She was changed by that faith and made her radiant and beautiful, made her someone that all of us can consider an example to be followed and perhaps a saint to be prayed to.
Es una cosa que el Señor me ha enseñado, de que el que pierde su vida y el que se olvida de sí misma y el que muere a sí misma es feliz. O sea, y esta es la verdad, esta es la verdad.
En la fría noche me la